You're in the gray zone. I'm Mark Ebner. I'm an award-winning journalist, a New York Times best-selling author, and I'm a private investigator. And I'm serving up crime stories from here in the crow's nest of the Gaylord Hotel here in Koreatown, USA. Carl Kozlowski's here.
Hey.
Yeah, welcome back, buddy.
Thank you.
And we have Dr. David Twisting Knobs for us here.
Always a pleasure to be twisted.
All right. Did you guys get paid?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Good, because this is listener-supported podcasting. So, if you like what you hear, keep it here by donating a few bucks. Mark Ebner 59 at paypal.com. Venmo the same, and I got a Patreon thing going on. Mark Ebner at Patreon. You know, it's out there. Find it. Send me some loot. Thanks. Much appreciated. So, Bill Cosby's being fitted for an ankle bracelet. House arrest in the very mansion where he drugged and raped. Yes, let's use that word, rape.
Yep.
Temple University employee Andrea Constant. There's been outcry about that being leniency, the house arrest thing, and how any other black rapist, or any other rapist for that matter, white, black, or whatever, would have been carted off to county jail to await his sentencing. But let's think this one through. He's been sentenced to the scene of the crime, the very crime that's going to put him away. Gives him, 100 days to think about what he did, what he was convicted of. Rape, serial rape, 60-plus victims. Gives him a lot to think about in that mansion, doesn't it? Until sentencing, when he will be remanded to a cold, dark cell in a state penitentiary. Yeah, he can file his habeas corpus writ from there, or he can just die there. In 2007, 7 years before she publicly came forward, I spoke with a woman named Joan Tarshis, a former Hollywood publicist who claimed that Bill Cosby raped her. After our talk, and of course much more research, I filed a version of a story that I'll be going in and out of on my website, HollywoodInterrupted.com. That story identified a number of women who claimed that Bill Cosby had raped them, including Andrea Constant, whose allegations led Montgomery County, Pennsylvania prosecutors to charge Cosby criminally on December 30th, 2015. It's now 2018, and justice has finally been served. You know, I've been asked, Ebner, you called it, blah, blah, blah. Well, Philly Magazine, it's important to point out, was ahead of me on breaking the story, if you will. But everybody wants to know if I feel vindication. Yeah, I feel vindication. I feel vindication in that forevermore, when I utter the name Bill Cosby, I never have to preface the accusations with allegedly anymore. Never again. He's a rapist. In my interviews with several of the women back then, I found the tale they told disturbingly similar. All were young and impressionable, beautiful and talented. Cosby had taken a keen interest in their careers and had offered to mentor them or otherwise open the fabled doors to the glistening kingdom of show business, for which he was a principal emissary. All were given spiked drinks or drugs misrepresented as medicine and became incapacitated, the women charged. David, you got a clip for us there?
You know anything about Spanish Fly? No, tell me about it. Well, there's this girl, Crazy Mary. You put some in her drink, man. She... Yeah, Spanish, oh yeah, that's really groovy, man. Spanish Fly is groovy, yeah, boy. From then on, man, anytime you see a girl, what's your ass on Spanish Fly, boy? Go to a party, see 5 girls standing alone. Boy, if I had a whole jug of Spanish Fly, I'd light that corner up over there.
Not so funny now, Mr. Cosby. Carl, you're a comic.
Yeah.
Was it funny then? Spanish Fly routine? I can't even get a chuckle out of that, and I've never been able to do it.
And I'll tell you one thing real quick that always struck me for many, many years as odd was that my parents, they bought me a bunch of his albums every year for Christmas and my birthday. That's how I got into comedy. I worshiped the guy at the time, obviously. And I came across that one album that was like double album from Vegas. It says album 1, clean for the kids and family. Album 2, it's the Late Show, where the parents can sneak out of the room on their own, have some adult laughs. And it always struck me as odd, like, what's up with Cosby having a second side? So many comics do it, but him, it always caught me as really weird. I never bought that album.
Yeah. It wasn't funny. It wasn't funny at all.
Yeah.
However, it did kind of play to his generation in that I think many of us grew up reading comic books, and in the back pages, you see ads for ersatz, which means fake Spanish Fly. Alongside, remember
X-ray specs.
X-ray specs. You get to see the underneath ladies' clothing with it. That's what you thought, right? God, it was so perverted back then. I mean, none of that stuff they sold worked.
And that's one of the things that you ask, was that funny? And definitely through today's eyes, no. But you go back and look at a lot of stuff, even from as recently as the 80s.
Yeah.
And it's just, wow, uber rapey,
Really? Well, and what was the other knockout drug? Yohimbe bark. Remember that one? Yohimbe?
I thought that was an upper. I thought Yohimbe was, rather than knocking her out, was like to get you up.
Oh, possibly. I don't know. Anyway, it was...
I'm sure if it existed as a drug that helped with sex, he probably tried it.
There. We'll leave it at that. So, all these women, the few women that I spoke to, I had no reason not to believe them. Who's going to sit with me? I'm not offering them any money. I'm sitting there with a sympathetic ear listening to their stories. And not one gave me reason to disbelieve them and their stories about Bill Cosby drugging and raping them. And they all allegedly awoke with the unshakable sense that something wrong had occurred. And from my own experience, I can confirm that the story shook people to the core. Even more than Woody Allen. Bill Cosby was a beloved figure and a civil rights pioneer. Hardened editors were horrified at the prospect of taking him down. I tried to sell this story. I mean, I put it up on my website. I want a little bit of traction, and nobody would touch it. I mean, I might as well have pitched a story about Martin Luther King Jr. philandering with white women. My story went nowhere. So it's important to track the history of this story and the media complicity that enabled it to remain untold for so long. You see, heroes always fall hard, but their suffering and anguish is nothing compared to that of their victims. All my career, I've run into bullshit corporate overlords in the media, but nothing compared to the stonewalling I got trying to move this story forward. I got my responses from editors echoing each other. We don't want to libel Mr. Cosby. And I'm like, yeah, but he's a rapist. I mean, there the story was on my website with zero pushback from Cosby's people. Not a word from the Gray Zone's old pal, damage control pitbull attorney Marty Singer. What was Cosby's camp afraid of? That I was right? That these women weren't lying? I went to my agent at the time at William Morris Endeavor, where the doyen of book brokering at the time, Joni Evans, received my proposal for a book that I wanted to write called Jello Man. Her response, Mark, do you realize how long Mr. Cosby has been a client of William Morris? Again, yeah, but he's a rapist. That relationship with that agent ended on that note. And I thank you, Hannibal Buress, for articulating as much on stage and helping to turn the tide. It's amazing when you think about it. It took that one comic to get up on some stage in some rinky-dink club where someone was videotaping, to make an argument, to be able to say, who are you, Cosby, telling black people to pull their pants up?
Wasn't it in Philadelphia?
Probably.
Yeah.
That would have been a good...
That was the daring turf of it all.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was a Philadelphia club.
Almost definitely
Yeah,
was.
you're probably right. And I think that, that's good because he was right at the flashpoint.
Mm-hmm. Sorry.
No, not at all. I mean, I think that, it was just amazing that he was able to say that on a stage in context if it was in Philadelphia. But it's sort of like South Park with the Trapped in the Closet episode, Tom Cruise, the one I consulted on. It's sometimes, more often than not, it seems, it takes a humorist to break the story down into bite-sized chunks. With Trapped in the Closet, it was giving away all the secrets of Scientology. And with Hannibal Buress, it was, yeah, but he's a rapist. William Henry Cosby occupies a permanent place in the American pantheon, like Jackie Robinson in baseball or Sidney Poitier in Hollywood films, with whom, by the way, if I'm not mistaken, Cosby partnered with him once or twice. Cosby was the first to successfully cross the color line in his field, initially nightclub comedy. And I think that's a lie, too. Wasn't Dick Gregory doing stand-up at the same time, if not before Bill Cosby?
I believe so. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Dick Gregory got his break, like a lot of black artists at the time, through Hugh Hefner and the Playboy clubs, booking, black entertainers.
Yep. From the same fold.
Yeah.
but not as evil. Oh, so he did his nightclub performances, and he was carrying the struggle for racial equality and civil rights literally into the nation's living rooms. One of the most revered performers of the last half century, his long-running series, The Cosby Show, and endearing commercials as a pitchman for Jell-O made him not only one of the wealthiest celebrities, I mean, he once considered buying NBC, but earned him unofficial status as America's first father. He is the author of a best-selling book titled simply Fatherhood. This was only reinforced when his son Ennis, 27, was shot and killed in a senseless act that was quickly recast as a national tragedy. Yet, like many pathfinders, Cosby may possess an inexplicable and almost unfathomable darkness